Greetings, Shepherds and Lapsley. This is Dan Stevens with news and notes from around the presbytery. You'll notice that I'm not in my normal spot for the video update today. I decided to step out the back door of the presbytery office into our little piece of nature that we have back here. I wanted to step out here because I was thinking about Advent, and the season of Advent always brings to mind to me also the change in seasons that just happens on planet Earth where we live. Every year there are times when the world heats up like in the summertime and then cools off like it does now in the wintertime. All of us are very aware of how much the temperatures have dropped off over the past week and a half. The interesting thing with the seasons is we have no control over them. The weather will get warmer or colder, and we'll just have to sit and adapt to it for the most part. The seasons change every year, sometimes a little earlier or a little later. But the time comes and the leaves fall off the trees and it gets cold again and we have to bundle up, whether we like it or not. There's something similar to that with the change of the season to Advent. The season of Advent comes and it's time to wait again. Advent is that season of waiting and anticipation for when we'll celebrate and remember the arrival of our Savior and the birth of Christ. Waiting is something where we have an experience of having very little control over what will happen. We just have to sit and wait for something to come along. And in the case of Advent, we remember the long wait of people for the Messiah, and we remember the wait that we have now for the return of Christ. I think waiting and being out of control of a situation is something that's particularly hard for Presbyterians like us. Our whole system is based on being organized and having some measure of control over how our organization works. There are a lot of wonderful benefits to that, and I think God probably has something to do with that. But sometimes it makes it a little bit harder for us to be open to the wonderful surprises of God's grace that can happen around us at any moment, whether we're ready or not. I remember when I used to be involved in full-time youth ministry, that one of my struggles as a young youth minister was to try not to be in control of everything that happened in the youth group. I would plan out things very carefully, especially when I first started, to try to have every minute accounted for so that the whole program would be so meaningful for the youth. But what I found over and over again was that the most meaningful things happened off the cuff. Yes, there were good programmed elements and that probably helped, but some youth would make a joke or trip over a chair or something else funny would happen, and all of a sudden that little funny moment would open up the group and the Spirit would move among us in surprising ways. I had no control over that. None of us did. It just happened. I don't think that's an easy thing for Presbyterians like you and me to experience all the time, but I think Advent and this changing of seasons all around us reminds us that although we are often not in control and sometimes we just have to wait, there are also wonderful surprises of God's grace that come along when we release our control and just experience the many blessings that are already and are always around us. All of us here at the Presbytery office continue to wish you a blessed and prayerful season of Advent.